Hello, this is Dave Hammer. Today we're going to take the first steps for forging a wrought iron gun barrel. My gun barrel is going to be made from a section of a wrought iron tire from a wagon wheel. I'll start with about 12 inches, a little over 3 inches wide and almost a half an inch thick. The first part of the process is to flatten this section wrought iron bar and to square off the sides. A true gunsmith would actually have a bar that is thicker on one end for the breech, slightly tapered to the front. This piece of wrought iron is actually highly refined wrought iron. We're going to be using a mandrel inside the gun barrel when we're forge welding. We use this, the flat bar is going to be rolled into a pipe and forge welded along a seam. This mandrel will be inside so that the pipe, the barrel, does not collapse while we're forging it. This is a relatively high carbon piece of steel, 3/8 in diameter. I put a L on one side because I'm gonna push it into the barrel as I'm forge welding it, and I need to be able to pound it out to extract it. The mandrel will be about 14 inches long. I'm going to be tapering, put a taper on that of about 6 to 8 inches from the width of the bar or the thing down to a little less than 1/4 of an inch. A round taper. Has to be straight. When we forge weld with the mandrel in, the object is to forge weld at the taper, on the taper. Take the bar first, use a swage block, the peen on a heavy hammer. Actually, the hammer I'm using is only a little over 2 pounds. At the moment, this hammer would have been better to use a slightly heavier one. I use a swage block on top of my anvil. I'm hitting this hard enough to push the swage block around. The anvil isn't providing the stability that I want. I'll take care of that later. You'll see how. I'm heating this in one of my Super C forges with a single burner. Wrought iron needs to be forged at almost welding heat. It takes many heats. The first forge weld, see me slip the mandrel in there, push it in. Actually, on this first weld, the mandrel was too far forward. I'm not on the taper, and that results in me having trouble getting it out. I eventually did, but I had problems. As I mentioned, forge welding needs to be done on the taper. The hole that you end up with after all this forge welding is not an even hole. It just needs to be a hole so that you can get a boring tool in there or drill. That's how far that mandrel should be pushed in, just a little ways. You're only seeing part of the forging here. Most of the video of the forging is speeded up to 3 times the normal work rate. There's about 4 hours of forging in the total in this project to this point. Making a gun barrel has many steps to completion. This video is just going to show the first couple steps, which are rolling and forge welding that bar into a pipe. After the gunsmith has finished the initial steps, we see here the end. It doesn't look like there was a good weld, but I ground it, and you can see here that the weld was absolutely perfect. This is my solution to the swage block bouncing around. I made a saddle which goes into the hardy hole and then skirts the anvil on the other end. This ended up working very well. You can see it takes many heats. You're only seeing probably less than half of them to keep this video short. I also speed up these clips. Work just a little bit at a time, closing that into a barrel a little bit at a time, using the mandrel inside to keep it from collapsing. After this is all welded, the next steps a gunsmith would make to make a complete barrel would be to drill the hole close to the desired size, and then use boring tools to get a precision bore of the right inside diameter. And then finally there would be spiraling grooves would be cut into the bore to cause the bullet to spin, which would make it more accurate than a smooth bore firearm. Next, there would be a threaded breech plug would be put in. The hole for the fire from the gunpowder would be drilled. The sights would be forged, and the hardware needed to attach the barrel to the stock would be made, and both would be attached to the barrel using dovetails or pins. This past weekend, I witnessed a gunsmith from Colonial Williamsburg forge the beginning of a long rifle barrel. I'll be showing the first steps in making, I am showing the first steps in making a pistol barrel. The barrel rolling and forge welding techniques that I'm demonstrating are what I learned from watching him. He used a piece of pure iron for his demonstration. As I said before, I'm using a section of wrought iron tire from an old wooden wagon wheel. The wrought iron that I'm using is extremely high quality. Most modern smiths, hobbyists especially, believe that wagon tires are always poor wrought iron. I can assure you that many are not. I have lots of them, and probably 1 out of 5 end up being very good wrought iron. This wrought iron happened to be exceptional. You can see I'm closing up. It takes many, many heats to do this. Making a barrel this way rather than just trying to drill a hole in a long solid stock makes the barrel stronger. It's unlikely that they would get a hole centered anyway. Almost finished. Once in a while I'd have a little more trouble getting the mandrel out, but most of the time it came out fairly easily. The next step the gunsmith would do would be to make this this round barrel into octagon by forging and filing. And all the other steps that I described earlier would go after that. Almost finished. I'm just truing it up right now. See if I have a hole all the way through. Uh-oh. There it comes. Flux had accumulated in there and blocked it, and I had to push it through. I expect that's very common. We'll just clean it up a little bit, and we're through the first couple steps of making a barrel. Thanks for watching.